The ticketing system crashed. Not once, not twice, but every single time it came back online. The Lindner Family Tennis Center in Mason, Ohio, had seen legends grace its courts. It had hosted Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Serena Williams. It had witnessed epic battles and historic victories. But it had never in its history, seen anything like this. Tournament officials made the decision to double the ticket prices for Alexandra Eala's matches. They had seen the demand in Washington and Toronto. They had watched the Filipino diaspora turn stadiums into seas of blue, red, yellow, and white. They knew that the Eala phenomenon was unlike anything the sport had ever witnessed. So they raised the prices. And then the unthinkable happened. Every single ticket sold out anyway. Completely. Utterly. Absolutely. Spectators were coughing up about $1,000 in the resale market for seats that normally cost a fraction of that. And 80% of ticket inquiries were asking about one thing: Eala's match schedule. The organizers scrambled to open additional sections. The scalpers were charging exorbitant prices. And still, the demand was insatiable. This is the story of how Alexandra Eala's Cincinnati Open caused a ticket frenzy that stunned the tennis world. The Lindner Family Tennis Center in Mason, Ohio, has hosted the Cincinnati Open for decades. It is one of the most prestigious events on the WTA and ATP calendars. The stadium has seen the greatest names in tennis history. It has witnessed epic battles, shocking upsets, and historic victories. But it has never witnessed anything like the ticket rush that accompanied Alexandra Eala's arrival. The ticketing system crashed at 6 in the morning. The demand was so overwhelming that officials had to scramble to open additional sections. The event was already on pace to draw over 300,000 fans, shattering the previous attendance record of 285,000 set just last year. And all of this for a player who hadn't even played a single point yet. Tournament officials, who had managed ticket sales for decades and had seen the biggest names in the sport, decided to double the ticket prices for Eala's matches. They had seen the demand in Washington and Toronto. They knew that the Filipino diaspora was unlike any fan base the sport had ever seen. They knew that Eala's matches were guaranteed sellouts. So they raised the prices. And then the unthinkable happened. Every single ticket sold out anyway. Spectators were coughing up about $1,000 in the resale market for seats that normally cost a fraction of that. And still, the demand was insatiable. 80% of ticket inquiries were asking about one thing: Eala's match schedule. The organizers scrambled to open additional sections. The scalpers were charging exorbitant prices. And still, the demand was insatiable. The power of the Filipino diaspora was undeniable. The demand for Eala's matches was insatiable. And the tennis world was. The Cincinnati frenzy was not an isolated incident. It was the culmination of a phenomenon that had been building for weeks. It started in Washington, D.C., at the Mubadala D.C. Open. The Filipino community in the U.S. capital turned out in unprecedented numbers. Tournament organizers later revealed that ticket demands had increased by a staggering 80%. Stadiums that were typically half full were packed to capacity. The energy was electric. The atmosphere was unlike anything the D.C. Open had ever experienced. The organizers admitted they had never seen anything like it. Then came the Canadian Open in Toronto. The Filipino community of Toronto, over 270,000 strong, came out in full force. Tickets for Eala's matches sold out in just 30 minutes. The organizers had initially scheduled her match on the grandstand court, but the overwhelming demand forced them to move it to the larger center court, which has over 10,000 seats. It was a sellout. Every match Eala played was a sellout. The tournament director, Carl Hale, called the support unprecedented and unlike anything seen before in Toronto. The fans, many of whom had never attended a professional tennis match before, packed the stadium and created what Eala herself called a barangay atmosphere. Tournament officials were stunned by the scale of the support. The organizers of the Mubadala DC Open and the National Bank Open admitted that they had never experienced a sellout like this before. They saw the tickets being snapped up within minutes. They saw the stadium filled to capacity with Filipino flags. They saw the passion of the diaspora. And they knew that they had to be ready for Cincinnati. The Eala phenomenon is not just about emotion. It's about numbers. And the numbers are staggering. Eala has played 56 matches in 2026, more than any other player on the WTA Tour. She has recorded 37 wins against just 19 losses. She has a 9-4 record against top 10 players. She has beaten the best players in the world: Jessica Pegula, Coco Gauff, Iga Swiatek, Alina Svitolina, and Elena Rybakina. The ticket demand for her matches has been unprecedented. In Cincinnati, the ticketing system crashed. The event is on pace to draw over 300,000 fans, a new attendance record. 80% of ticket inquiries were about Eala's match schedule. Scalpers were charging over $1,000 for seats that normally cost a fraction of that. The prices on the secondary market reflected the incredible demand. For the second-round match, tickets on StubHub range from $86 to $685. For the finals, tickets range from $172 to $867. For the round of 16, tickets on StubHub range from CN Yen 376, approximately $52, to CN Yen 2, 841, approximately $393. At the official tickets.com site, the lowest price for Cincinnati Open Grandstands tickets was $128, with an average price of $132. The average ticket price for the Cincinnati Open overall was $176, with a lowest price of $75. But the secondary market prices were skyrocketing, especially for Eala's matches. And despite the doubled prices and the exorbitant resale prices, the tickets were completely sold out. The power of the Filipino diaspora was undeniable. The demand for Eala's matches was insatiable, and the tennis world was stunned. The ticket rush in Cincinnati was not just about ticket sales. It was a sign of something much bigger. It was a sign that the Eala phenomenon was real. It was a sign that the Filipina superstar was changing the sport. The tournament organizers had learned a valuable lesson about connecting with diverse communities. Carl Hale, the tournament director in Toronto, had admitted that the tournament had learned a valuable lesson about connecting with Toronto's diverse communities. He said, "We're part of this great multicultural community in Toronto, so we want everybody to be a part of this event in the future." The impact extended beyond the stands. The tournament embraced the Filipino culture, offering Filipino food like chicken adobo and lumpia. One vendor even reported running out of food halfway through the tournament, a first for the event. "It's the first time I've ever heard. Halfway through the tournament, they ran out of food offering just because of a player," Hale said. The organizers were so impressed by the turnout that they began planning for future events. The Cincinnati organizers were scrambling to accommodate the demand. They were opening additional sections. They were adding more staff. They were doing everything they could to handle the chaos. And the tennis world was taking notice. Coco Gauff, who had faced Eala in Dubai earlier in the year, said, "I like that Alex brings a whole new demographic to the WTA Tour." Naomi Osaka echoed similar sentiments, praising Eala for being well-spoken and wise beyond her age. The legends of the sport, Billie Jean King, Chris Evert, Martina Navratilova, were praising Eala's talent and resilience. The tennis world was realizing that Eala was not just a player. She was a movement. As the Cincinnati Open continued, all eyes were on Alexandra Eala. The 17th seed had a prime opportunity to make a deep run. Her first round bye meant she would be fresh for her second-round match. The ticket rush had been a huge success. The crowds were massive. The energy was electric, and the tennis world was watching. But beyond Cincinnati, the future was even more exciting. The U.S. Open, the year's final Grand Slam, was looming on the horizon. Eala would be defending second-round points at Flushing Meadows. She was already sitting at world number 20. A strong performance in Cincinnati could push her even higher. The top 10 was within reach. Eala's coach, Jan Bosch, had said, "We need to manage the next 2 weeks carefully. The ranking is within reach, but we cannot force it. The points will come from playing good tennis, not from chasing numbers." For Eala, the message was clear: control what you can control. The ranking would follow, and the fans would follow too. The Filipino diaspora had turned Cincinnati into a sea of Filipino flags. They would do the same in New York. They would do the same at every tournament Eala played. The tennis world had never seen anything like it, and Alexandra Eala was at the center of it all. "It's an honor to represent my country, and I'm super grateful for all the love and recognition I'm getting," Eala said. "I'm counting my blessings, and I'm taking the lessons that I've had from these 2 weeks and hopefully implementing them even more in a better way in Cincinnati and New York. The 21-year-old lefty had come so far. She left her home at the age of 13 to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy. She endured countless setbacks. She was fined $50,000 for playing in a tournament she was advised to withdraw from. She was snubbed from the Eastbourne Open. She was overlooked for elite player development camps. And she overcame all of it. She was no longer the underdog. She was the favorite. She was the champion. And she was carrying the hopes of a nation on her shoulders.